Hey guys, what's going on? We got another Mythic Plus video as enhancement. We are doing Algeth'ar's Academy plus 12 with Tyrannical, Storming, Bursting. And if you watched last week's video, you would have known we did Algeth'ar as well. And I know why I do Algeth'ar twice in a row. Well, I kind of had some rough keys earlier. I was trying to get a video and I was hoping to do some beta keys. And I did about 6 or 7 of them, and none of them were even halfway completed. Everybody kept leaving after like one wipe or something like that, so it was really like depressing, and I got frustrated. So I jumped onto retail, and I was like, okay, I'll do this Neltharis. I was gonna get a Neltharis key, and then that fell apart too, and I was like, oh my god, can I not get a key done? And so ended up joining this group, and we just absolutely smashed it, thankfully, because I was getting frustrated. But anyways, that's not what I want to talk about in this video. I want to talk about Enhance and the upcoming changes and how it actually feels in beta on Mythic Plus from what I've tested. So first off is, I believe come next reset, we are actually getting the true Enhanced talent changes. Don't quote me on it though, but I do believe that next reset they are doing that, which means we are getting all the talent reductions as well as the elemental blast buff and getting 2 charges of elemental blast back again, as well as the changes to primordial wave and the storm changes too. So this means Enhance is going to gain a bit more power than what it has currently in pre-patch. Will enhancement be broken? No, because a lot of our power comes from the hero talents, unfortunately. But anyways, onto the actual playstyle of beta enhancement right now. From what I tested, from all those failed keys that I did earlier, I was doing a storm a storm totemic build, and generally I think Tempest is the better option right now, but I wanted to try Totemic because I haven't really seen anything on it, and I just wanted to try it out. So what I did was I ran Totemic, and so the extra talent nodes is, the first one is you can get either just extra flat damage or increased extra damage, but only while in Ascendance. And then you also have like the Searing Totem deals more damage, or Sunder triggers your Surging Totem to do a big burst. So I chose the extra damage while in Ascendance, and I chose the extra damage from Sunder. And what I found was I actually had really good burst AoE. The playstyle wasn't too bad. It was a bit all over the place with how much button bloat there is. Is that going to get fixed? I don't know. I highly doubt it, but it's been an issue for shamans all Dragonflight, really, is button bloat, and coming into the War Within it's become more. And with Totemic you get more button bloat because you have to use your Surging Totem, right? So but it did feel pretty good. The only pain in the butt is when the mobs are moving a lot and you have to manage your dumb totem. That is the biggest downfall, and that is something I really hope Blizzard changes on, because there's nothing more frustrating than just moving your totem and then the mob has to move once again out of your range, and you have to wait about 3 or 7 or 5 extra seconds because Totemic projection is on cooldown. But I mean, it is a 30-second cooldown totem. It's not like the worst thing ever, but at the same time, like, there's no more sanguine, thank God. But let's say, for instance, like a sanguine effect or some sort of sanguine mob effect kind of happened, right, where the mobs have to move. It's gonna be a real nightmare to play around. But other than that, from what I have tested, damage specifically wise, is that everything was doing quite a lot. Wind Fury actually felt useful and damagey wise. It was definitely one of my top contenders. Surging Totem was actually dealing a significant amount of damage, especially when Ascendance and Sunder lined up together with it. It was like this big explosive damage, which was great to see. And the way they changed some of the nodes, so if you didn't know, when you drop your Totemic totem, when you drop your surging totem, Totemic totem, I don't know, but when you drop your surging totem, you get 3 buffs. One is a buff to Storm Strike, gaining a buff where it strikes a secondary target for 75% of the damage. Also triggers Wind Fury. The other one would be your Earth, which is either Elemental Blast, gets a cooldown reduction of 12 seconds after used, or your next Sunder reduces the cooldown of Sunder by 12 seconds, which causes it to line up perfectly with every surging totem. The last one is your Fire one, which is your next Lava Lash is increased by, or no, the Lava Lash critical damage is increased by 75%, and its critical chance increased by 15%, but it also now affects Fire Nova in the same way. So basically what you want to do is you want to Flame Strike, you want to Lava Lash, so that way you spread your Flame Shocks, right? And then you drop your totem, then you Fire Nova, and that will create a big burst of damage, and then you Sunder and Storm Strike, and you just have this nice burst of damage. It actually felt very fluid, but it felt very clunky at the same time, right? You have to go through such a rotation to actually get there. I think in higher keys it'll feel a bit better, but in the keys that I was doing, things were dying a little bit quickly. But at the same time, it really doesn't feel too bad. But the same issue still applies where you're Lava Lashing and you're Storm Striking and you're Lava Lashing and you're Storm Striking. That's a bit of an issue, and your spenders don't feel as potent, I guess. Which I think some people like. They don't like the spenders to be everything. They want the generators to be more things. So in that sense, it felt pretty good. So I think Totemic is actually going to be a really good option, especially in AoE cleave. It's just going to require some management, and it's just a pain in the butt. But as for Tempest feels pretty good. One, because you don't have that extra button, right? So unlike Totemic, where you have to spend the GCD, drop the totem, Stormbringer just changes your Lightning Bolt to be Tempest. And it's uncapped AoE, and it's just there, right? So your next Lightning Bolt is going to be Tempest, and you just explode with massive damage. But on top of that, you gain a bit of extra buffs from it. You gain Lightning Conduit, which entail you have to run Primordial Wave with it. In Mythic Plus specifically, if you want to play Stormbringer, you want to run Primordial Wave. The reason for that is because when you Primordial Wave, your next Lightning Bolt is going to attack all targets with Flame Shock, right? And why is that a good thing for Stormbringer? Well, or like a requirement for Stormbringer, is because when that happens, it's going to apply Storm Conduit to each one of those, causing them to take damage, 10% of your damage, I believe, from your Chain Lightnings and your Lightning Bolts. Any sort of, I think it's just those, maybe Elemental Blast is in there too. But yeah, so every time you Chain Lightning or Lightning Bolt somebody, you're going to apply Storm Conduit, and that Storm Conduit accumulates 10% of the damage dealt by your Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning and sends it into them. So that is the reason why you kind of have to run Primordial Wave. So if you don't like Primordial Wave, I try and steer away from Stormbringer. That doesn't mean you can't play Stormbringer without it. It's just more optimal with it. But outside of that, like, Stormbringer just feels more fluid. You're not really changing the way you play or worrying about it. You just have to manage your Maelstrom pretty good. And it is all about Maelstrom spenders. So the more you spend, the more damage you're going to deal, because you want to get as many Tempests out at one time. That is the best part. And every time you do Tempest, you gain a Nature Feral Spirit, which entail buffs Tempest even more and stuff like that. So you'd be playing this weird hybrid Storm build, Storm Elementalist build. And that doesn't mean to say you can't play just straight Storm, but you will need to take Lava Lash with Molten Assault, I know a lot of people like running Ice Strike, but you will need to take Lava Lash with Molten Assault. But if you don't want to, I mean, that's
Shockwave.
fine. Like in single target, I don't think you're going to have to worry about it, but in AoE, you definitely will. It is a bit of a shame, but at the same time, they want to utilize everything that we have. Uh, but yeah, so what the build is going to look like
Shockwave.
is you're going to be going down into hot hands and stuff, but instead of going into splintered elements from Primordial Wave, you will go into Ascendance, gaining a bit more nature damage and applying that there. Uh, so
Shockwave.
it's a really awkward and weird build, but it works. So if you're interested in playing Storm, but you don't quite want to deal with Flame Shock all that much, I'd definitely go with Totemic. It's definitely more beneficial in that way, but it's still a pain because you have to work around Totemic itself. You have to work around the totem. So if I had to give the edge to one of the talents, I would have to say Stormbringer is probably the better option between the two. And the reason being is it doesn't give you that extra button. And honestly, Tempest just looks cooler. Uh, don't get me wrong, when like you drop the totem and you get these cool looking fire novas around the totem, it's pretty cool, but like
Shockwave.
it's just I don't know, it doesn't seem to have the same flow, I guess. I don't know. They would have to change the way the totem works. They like I don't know if they
Shockwave.
would make it like a passive, so when you lava lash every 30 seconds, you drop a totem or something like that. It's just a real pain to work around, especially with the current bloat of Enhancement Shaman. All your utility buttons, all your damage
Shockwave.
buttons, like you have a significant amount of buttons to press. Most classes typically have like 4 or 5 buttons, maybe in the rotation, and that's including cooldowns. Whereas Enhancement, you have
Shockwave.
Flame Shock, you have Lightning Bolt, you have Lava Lash, you have Storm Strike, you have Crash Lightning, you have Frost Shock, you have Fire Nova, you have Elemental Blast. I mean, it really depends on what build you're running, but you have
Shockwave.
a significant amount of buttons to press already, and then we got to add in our cooldowns. Like that's just the basic stuff that you're pressing right now. Like you got to add in Primordial Wave, you got to add in Feral Spirits, you got to add in your dumb totem. Like it's kind of crazy that they haven't shrunk it down. And I don't mean like let's change it so all we have to do is spam Storm Strike. I don't think anybody really wants us to just spam Storm Strike all on its own. I think people do want like a sense of rotation and stuff like that. So we'll have to see what happens with that. If they were to change it, I would like to see them do something with Ice Strike and Lava Lash. Like instead of having a Lava Lash and Ice Strike node, I'd kind of like to see them on the same node, maybe giving you a choice between, okay, you're going to either do fire and work around Flame Shock, or you're going to do Ice Strike and work around Frost Shock, right? And then you get into the question, oh, how do you work around the other talents like Hot Hands and stuff? I don't know. But like that's the kind of thing I want to see is like or maybe like you can you can take both of them if you want, but Ice Strike also gets connected to Hailstorm because that would make the most sense. It seems weird to me that you would ever take Hailstorm and not Ice Strike at the same time, right? Just like if you were to take Lava Lash, you're not gonna choose to not go into Fire Nova. I mean, I get if you take Lava Lash and Molten Assault and you go down to that node, you're not going to choose Hailstorm without Ice Strike. You're going to go into Fire Nova instead, right? So if you don't want to play around Ice Strike, you just play around Fire Nova. So I think there should be maybe a connecting node between those because it only makes sense. And that would give Storm like its option between doing ice and or fire. Like you do physical ice or physical fire. You know what I mean? It's just interesting that they haven't chosen that yet. But as for overall enhancement beta, I think we are looking good on the PvE side of things. I think we are up there. I think people have listed us as like an A tier class. Does it feel good to play? I don't know. I really it sometimes yes, sometimes no. Like it currently I haven't been able to generate enough haste to make it really feel good because if you know enhancement, right? You play enhancement, you know a good chunk of haste makes enhancement feel really, really good. But when you have low haste, I think a lot of classes just feel the same way. It really doesn't feel like it doesn't feel good at all to be super slow. Especially when you're playing enhancement, which is a fast specialization, you're constantly doing something. It feels really bad when you're going very slow. So once it releases, I could really say because I would have my prioritized gear, right? Getting as much haste as possible and as much mastery, but currently I'm limited and I don't know how to get all of that gear from the PTR vendors and stuff. But from what I have played in Mythic Plus, it does feel pretty good. It definitely feels a little bit more cluttered, but overall, I would say it's in a good direction for where enhancement should be going. Um, I do think a bit of pruning might be really good for the specialization, or like a complete rework maybe. I don't know. The biggest issue with enhancement is its RNG factor, which they have baked into every single ability we have, right? So we have Maelstrom, which we currently generate a significant amount. Whereas it used to be not as much as this because we had 5 stacks, we had a lot less chance to generate Maelstrom, but now we have so many talents to guarantee us a generation. It really doesn't feel like a resource anymore. It's just like it's like a rage bar or something, right? It's very, very rare that you're not going to generate any Maelstrom whatsoever. But on the other hand, like we got Storm Strike, which has about 6 different modifiers and a multi-strike chance. But that multi-strike chance procs another multi-strike chance from Wind Fury, and it just becomes this monstrous casino roll that could absolutely destroy everything if left untamed, right? And these are the kind of things that really cause an issue. Um, so as for what they could do, I really have no idea. I think if they were to remove Storm Flurry, it would hit Shamans pretty hard. Or to modify it back into, if you played back in Missa Pandaria, I believe, we used to have a talent called Echo of Elements, which you probably recognize the name from Elemental Shaman. Basically, what that used to do is your Storm Strike used to have a chance to multi-strike. Now, this effect could only chain one time, so that could be a option for the future. Um, but it would deal like 100% damage or something like that rather than reduced damage. It would just multi-strike and then cause Wind Fury and stuff like that. So rather than having this random chance to multi-strike 500 times, because it does have an unlimited amount of chains, it can literally chain permanently. Like the ability can chain permanently and trigger Wind Furies permanently, and it's it's something to think of, obviously, but it's instantaneous. So you would never notice it unless you're really starved on Maelstrom and stuff like that. But yeah, that's one thing I could see is change Storm Flurry to Echo of Elements and have it maybe apply to Lava Lash or Ice Strike even as well, giving them a multi-strike ability too, I think. But keeping it just with Storm Strike would also make Storm Strike a bit more beneficial to press, especially even when playing Elementalist, because it would have that multi-strike generating more Maelstrom. But at the same time, I don't know. Um, On the hero talents themselves, though, I think they are okay. We're not really gaining any form of defensive quality from them. We gain a little bit of defense, but we gain a big chunk of offensive power, as I said at the like close to the start. Our hero talents are doing a significant amount of our damage. Surging Totem and Tempest do a massive amount. Tempest, more of the fact that it generates a Feral Spirit and gives us more Maelstrom and gives us 2 Chain Lightnings, where Surging Totem just does the damage itself. So I'd say they're both quality and they're both good options. But I see more people going towards Tempest because it doesn't have that extra button. I'm probably going to go more towards Totemic because I think it feels a little bit nice, but at the same time, I'm not going to, I'll be constantly switching between the two, trying to figure it out as soon as release happens. So, but yeah, overall, I think Enhancement is in a good spot in the PvE scenarios, such as Raiding and Mythic Plus. I think we are in a pretty solid position. It might feel a bit awkward at the start, and who knows with further tuning. We might get nerfed, we might get buffed, or they might just rework us entirely come patch 0.1. So, but yeah, that is what is going on. So hopefully you guys keep on playing Enhancement, don't give up on it, or play it as an alt and just play Elemental or something. But yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my rambling on about Enhancement Shaman once again. And once again, I'd like to apologize for a repeat of Algeth'ar's. I just had some really bad luck and really didn't want to try and do another one. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Laters!